Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Our first story comes from an office that feels less like a job and more like a long-running social experiment. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. He cried when confronted about stealing office pizza. I work in a very weird sales job. I've been here for just about 33 years, and the age range in the office is wild, anywhere from early 20s to well into their 80s. When people work together for decades, there are no secrets. Everyone knows everyone else's habits, quirks, divorces, health scares, and grudges. It really is gossip central. Half the time, it feels less like a workplace and more like a geriatric high school, complete with cliques, grudges, and long memories. One of my responsibilities is organizing lunch for the office a couple of times a month. Nothing fancy, usually pizza or sandwiches, but we do have several people with legitimate dietary restrictions. We have employees who keep kosher, some who are gluten-free, and a few vegans. I take that seriously. I make sure everyone is covered so no one feels excluded or stuck eating a sad desk snack while everyone else enjoys lunch. Because I never know exactly how many people will be in the office on any given day, we always order extra. There are always leftovers, and people are encouraged to take some home. That's never been an issue. The only rule is that the specialty food, the kosher, gluten-free, and vegan options, stays at reception. That stuff's expensive, and it's ordered specifically for people who actually need it. Last week, I heard raised voices near the front desk. I walked over just in time to see a grown man arguing with the receptionist. He was trying to take the specialty food, which was very clearly not ordered for him. When I stepped in to calm things down, he immediately turned on me. He started screaming. And I don't mean raised voice, I mean full-on, red-faced, vein-popping yelling. He was insisting there was more than enough specialty food and that there was no reason he couldn't take it. I calmly explained that it was reserved for people with dietary restrictions and there was plenty of regular pizza for him to take home if he wanted. That explanation did absolutely nothing. He kept screaming at a level that was honestly shocking, especially considering the subject matter was leftover office pizza. People nearby froze. You could feel the tension ripple through the office. Of course, because this is my workplace, the incident became instant gossip. By the end of the day, everyone was talking about it, and unfortunately for him, the whole office already knew something else about this particular gentleman. For years, literal years, he's been packing pizza to take home before anyone has even had a chance to eat. He brings a travel cooler. He wraps slices in aluminum foil. He does this openly in plain sight. This is not a money issue. He's quite well off. He's just extremely cheap and apparently has no shame. The next day, I asked him to step into his office so we could talk privately, door closed. I explained calmly again that he couldn't speak to people like that and reiterated that the specialty food was ordered for specific employees. Once again, he exploded. More screaming, same argument, same entitlement, and that's when something in me finally snapped. I haven't lost my temper in the office in over 8 years. I pride myself on staying calm, professional, and even-toned, but it came out of me like hot lava. I yelled back. I told him the entire office knows he steals pizza, that it has to stop, that he's welcome to take food home after everyone has eaten, but what he's been doing is selfish and ridiculous. I pointed out that it's not exactly subtle to whip out aluminum foil and a cooler in the middle of the lunch rush. He looked stunned, genuinely shocked that everyone knew, which is wild considering he's been doing this in full view of dozens of people for years. The next morning he asked to speak to me. This time he closed the door and started crying, actual tears. He apologized and said he didn't know why he did it and promised he would do better. I felt awful, truly awful. I felt about 2 inches tall. Yelling at someone like that isn't who I am, and I hated that I'd let myself get pushed to that point. For the entire week afterward, I felt sick over it. I kept telling my boss that maybe I should apologize again, that I felt terrible, that I shouldn't have lost my temper. Then last night, my boss called me. He told me he caught the same man stealing paper towels off the cleaning crew's cart, loading them into a big bag like he was prepping for a natural disaster. And just like that, the guilt evaporated. I no longer feel bad, at all. The happy news is my boss gave me the day off today, probably because he knows I've been stressing myself into knots over this nonsense. But honestly, what are people thinking? Imagine being a grown adult, well off, screaming over pizza and stealing paper towels from the janitorial staff. Some people really do treat the office like a free-for-all and then act shocked when they finally get called out. Lesson learned. Sometimes your instincts are right, and sometimes the guilt is misplaced. Sometimes holding people accountable feels harsher in the moment, but honestly, it's the kindest thing long-term because it forces them to face their behavior. You didn't embarrass them for no reason, you just drew a line everyone else was already thinking about. And our next story. All right, gentlemen, this story is corporate hell that gets worse by the minute. But I think the author, like a true American, was born ready for it and showed the bosses how things are actually done. When the CEO asked for a signature. I was in my early 30s. I was born in the US, but I spent part of my childhood in Lithuania. My parents were there on a contract, and I still remembered the smell of wet stone in Vilnius after rain. Life made a full circle. 20 years later, I found myself back there again, this time as an adult for work. Let's call the company Nordbyte, a fintech with a crypto arm, lots of international clients, lots of ambition, and most importantly, they'd gone public. IPO listing, investors, auditors, press. Once your name starts showing up in the news, small mistakes stop being small. Our CEO, let's call him Darius, changed overnight after the listing. Not that he'd been a saint before, but back then he was hungry and sharp. Now he became self-obsessed and out of control. His salary and options skyrocketed, and along with them came this sense of invincibility. Somewhere between "we did it" and "I'm a god now," alcohol showed up, parties showed up, and the kind of substances that make people very brave with words and very stupid with decisions. I was responsible for operations and security processes at the intersection of it all. Access controls, incident response, logging, compliance. Not I hold the money, but I make sure nobody holds money like an idiot. After the listing, we introduced policies that made Darius grind his teeth. Multi-signature for the Treasury wallet, separation of duties, a ban on personal storage devices, incident management, chain of custody. He nodded during presentations, smiled at investors, then did whatever he wanted anyway. I realized how bad it was one evening in a bar in the old town. It was Thursday. The team was celebrating a strong quarter. I stopped by briefly, say hi, look like I was one of the guys, and disappear before the night got weird. But it got weird faster than I could finish my first drink. Darius was in the VIP area. Around him, 2 people from sales, some friends of friends, and a bartender who already knew a little too well what to pour for our boss. Darius spoke loudly in English with a Lithuanian accent, like the whole place was his stage. "You understand what power is?" he said, raising a finger. "Not a title, not shares. Power is the key." Someone laughed, someone winked. Darius pulled a small flash drive from his pocket, plain black, the kind you've seen 1,000 times. "See this?" He shook it like a trophy. "This is the door. This is the safe. This is the company." One of the sales guys, clearly already drunk, said, "Are you serious? Is that the phrases?" Darius paused, soaking in the attention. "Yes, the seed. I'm the only one who—" He stopped and smirked. "Well, almost the only one, but you get it. If I want to, money moves." Okay, stop right there. If this feels like drunk bragging in a bar, no. This is the moment the disaster already happened. It just hasn't officially been labeled an incident yet. My stomach tightened, not from jealousy, from professional horror. It was like watching a pilot show passengers the shut-off engine button. I stepped closer, calm, neutral. "Darius," I said quietly, so it sounded like advice, not a challenge. "You actually carry that around?" He looked at me like I'd ruined a magic trick. "Oh, our Mr. Policy," he snorted. "Relax, it's not diamonds, it's a flash drive." "That's exactly why it's scary," I said. "A flash drive is easy to lose, easy to show off, easy to hand to the wrong person." Darius leaned in, smelling like expensive alcohol and arrogance. "Listen, American," he said, "we're not in a textbook. This is real life. I run the company. I know what I'm doing." "I know too," I said, "and I know this violates our own rules." He leaned back and smiled. "Then email me. I love emails." People laughed. I didn't. The next morning I did email him. No drama, no accusations, just reminder, seed/keys must not be stored on personal media. I recommend moving control to the approved multi-sig custody scheme per post-listing policy. 2 hours later, I got a one-sentence reply. Focus on your own tasks. 3 days passed. Monday didn't start with coffee. It started with panic. At 7:12 a.m., our CFO, let's call her Eglay, called me. She spoke quietly and very fast. Bad sign. Are you on your way? She asked. What happened? A pause. The Treasury wallet. Part of the assets are gone. Not authorized. Darius. He's in the conference room right now, and he's furious. Gone where? We don't know yet, but the amount is serious. I arrived at the office, and the air felt like the second before a thunderstorm. People were silent, staring at their monitors like pretending it wasn't happening would make it disappear. In the conference room, Darius, Eglay, and our lawyer. On the table, a laptop, phones, a glass of water nobody touched. Darius didn't even say hello. Sit. He stabbed a finger at a chair. Explain why the money disappeared. I opened my laptop but didn't rush. First I said, who had control of the seed/keys? What signatures were required? Darius narrowed his eyes. Don't play games. You're responsible for security. You're responsible for processes. Processes work when people don't bypass them, I said evenly. Simple question. Where was the seed stored? Eglay looked at him, then at me. Her expression said, be careful. Darius slammed his palm on the table. Don't act smart. I know you managed access. I know you could. Could what? I cut in. I didn't have the seed. I wasn't allowed to have it under policy. The lawyer cleared his throat like someone who wanted to flee but couldn't. Let's establish facts, he said carefully. Who had the physical device? 1 second of silence. Darius said, it was in a safe. Which safe? I asked. We don't have an approved safe for that. We only have multi-sig. Darius stared at me longer than necessary. So you're saying this isn't your problem? I'm saying this is an incident. I said, and we follow procedure. Open a ticket, involve compliance, forensics, the board. The listing requires it. His face shifted from anger to fear. No, he said quietly. No board, no compliance. This stays internal. You're going to find a solution. I'm not finding a solution without an official process, I said. If these are corporate assets, we can't play, we'll handle it and forget it. Darius leaned toward me. Then we do it like this. You sign a statement that you controlled the device, that it was under your responsibility. Then it's your screw up, and I'll close the issue quietly. There it was. Not investigate, not fix, just make someone else guilty. And here it is, folks, the genre classic. When a leader makes a mistake, they don't look for a solution. They look for someone to sign the blame. Because a signature isn't paper, it's someone's career. Eglay snapped. Darius, this... Quiet, Eglay. He didn't even look at her. Do you want to lose investors? I exhaled slowly and did one thing that always works against people who think rules are for the weak. I nodded. Fine, I said. Formal request in writing. I'm not signing anything verbal. Send it as a requirement. I'll open a ticket and involve legal. No tickets, he barked. Just sign it. After the listing, I raised an eyebrow. You signed the policy yourself. Any loss of assets is an incident. Mandatory compliance escalation. I can't violate procedure, even if you ask. Darius stared at me like a man hearing the word no for the first time in his life and not knowing what to do with it. Are you blackmailing me? He hissed. No, I said, I'm following policy. He stormed out, slamming the door. Eglay stayed behind, pale. You know he's going to try and drown you now, she whispered. I know, I said. That's why I only need his words, and I need them in writing. 20 minutes later, a message hit my corporate chat from Darius. Short, but delicious for compliance. Listen, the seed was on a flash drive. I carried it with me. Last night, I was in a bar. Maybe someone saw it, but officially we say it was under your responsibility. Make it look correct. Don't involve the board. I read it twice, then took a screenshot and forwarded it to the ticketing system. Yes, I opened an incident, fully flagged. Subject, potential loss of corporate digital assets / mandatory compliance escalation. I added Eglay, legal, the compliance lead, let's call him Montes, and the external forensics team we kept just in case, because just in case had just arrived. Compliance reacted first. Montes called me 10 minutes later. You understand this will automatically go to the board, he asked. That's exactly what's supposed to happen, I said, and I have written confirmation the device was in the CEO's possession. You do? His voice went cold and professional. I do. Good. Don't delete anything. Don't discuss it in hallways. We're taking control. After that, it was dominoes falling under the weight of their own rules. Forensics pulled MDM and DLP logs, which USB devices were plugged into which laptops. Turns out the flash drive didn't show up on my laptop. It showed up on the CEO's laptop, twice. The last time was late Friday night. Office cameras showed him entering his office, not alone, with some friends nobody at the company recognized. The corporate card showed charges at an Old Town bar on Sunday. After a listing, those details aren't private life anymore, they're company risk. Darius kept calling me. Cancel it. I can't. I'm ordering you. Policy can't be canceled by an order. Then he switched to threats. I'll make sure you never find work in Europe again. Great, I said, then this definitely needs to go through legal. On day 3, we had the board call. I sat in a small conference room facing a laptop, Egle beside me, Montes across the table, like a man holding a protocol in one hand and an axe in the other. On the screen was the board chair, an American investor with a voice that never rises because it doesn't need to. Darius, he said, we received compliance materials. Explain. Darius tried to smile. This is an internal misunderstanding. One employee, Montes cut in dry. We have a written message from the CEO stating the seed was stored on a flash drive and carried personally, and a request to officially claim it was another person's responsibility. Would you like me to read it aloud? Darius went white. That's taken out of context. Context doesn't help here, the board chair said. Do you confirm you stored keys on an unapproved device? Darius started talking fast, tangled like a drowning man. It was temporary. You don't understand how quickly decisions had to be made. Egle said quietly, we understand. That's exactly why we adopted a policy that forbids temporary. Silence. The kind of silence where someone realizes the game is over. The board chair said evenly, Darius, you are removed from operational control effective immediately. Next steps are legal. Thank you. The screen went dark. I stared at my own reflection in the black display, thinking one simple thing. I didn't take revenge. I just refused to become a trash bin for someone else's stupidity. A week later, the company announced the CEO was stepping down for personal reasons. No details. That's what public companies do. They don't like drama. They like quiet. Legal sent an internal memo officially clearing me of any responsibility. Egle came to me with a new contract, retention bonus, promotion, and a formal role in rebuilding a real Treasury process. She gave me a tired smile. Now you can say, I warned you. If you ever end up in a situation where someone asks you to just sign it so we can close the issue, stop. In corporate life, close the issue often means dig you a grave. The best revenge here isn't even revenge, it's calm discipline, policy, procedure, written confirmation. Because when someone at the top snaps their chain, rules are the only thing that keeps you standing. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.